Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Joining us on the podcast again is Jennifer Dawn. Jennifer, if you remember from episode 3, is a coach, author, and creator of the Best Planner Ever. Jennifer and I are going to share today more details and mindsets surrounding planning for our business. This is the perfect time of year when everybody's talking about it. We're going to chat about Blue Monday and how to keep it from being so blue. We're going to look into the biggest mistakes that we make when setting goals so that we can avoid them. And we're also going to be talking about how important it is to have the right tools and support systems in place to make sure that you have the best opportunity for success. So grab that paper and pen, make some notes as you listen. I think you're going to find a lot to consider as well as a lot of freedom in this podcast. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Jennifer, I'm so happy to have you back on the podcast. I think you are the first person. Nope, you'll be the second person that I've had on twice now. So that's fun.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor. You know, I love being here with you. I could just sit and just talk with you all day long.
I know. I feel the same way. Well, the thing that I mentioned on the first podcast that you were on, where we were talking about mindset to profit, you had mentioned about your planner. We had talked about goal setting, and I said, we need to have you back. And so that's what we're going to talk about in our time together today is planning and goal setting and all the good and bad that comes with that, you know, because sometimes it feels weighty, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes some people are very excited, and maybe you can speak to this. Some people are very excited and like energized and it's going to be fun and they get to dream. And other people come into this almost like they're being beaten, you know, in this admission that they have to create these plans or goals. Can you speak to like what makes it different for each person?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, from what I've seen in my experience is it really kind of comes down to results. Like if you set goals and you get results, you're going to be energized. You're going to feel really good about it, right? But if you have a goal, especially if you've been trying to meet a goal for like a year or longer and you haven't succeeded, it just starts to kind of suck the life out of you. Or if you've tried different goal systems and you haven't succeeded, it just starts to kind of wear you down. And, you know, it's like, oh, another year of setting goals I won't meet, right? That starts to kind of be the mindset around it. And in my experience, if you can start to overcome that and you can start to really find strategies and tools that will work for you and you start to see success, you'll get to switch sides. You'll be on the other side going, oh, yippee, this is actually a lot of fun, because it is fun when you're like, you have a dream and you manifest it. Like, what could really be more fun than that?
I love that. One of the things I shared when I was talking to Seal on the podcast that we just completed right before this one was that I really start planning in October. I'm always doing the rolling quarter thing, and we'll talk about the mechanics of all that. But I like to start a good 2-3 months. I mean, sometimes I'm 6 months out, just even casting. Not even going to touch that this year. That's coming next year. And so I think I love what you said about if we've had a good experience with planning, of course, we're going to be excited about it, which I am. But I've also been in the state where I didn't plan either effectively, right? It's not that I didn't plan, but maybe I didn't do it effectively. And I've also been there where I kind of felt like I was already behind the 8 ball. I know a couple of my clients have said to me, if I wait and plan in January, I already feel behind. But the truth is, from my experience, anytime you sit down to plan, as long as you're doing it in a way that supports you, is a good time. I'm not saying there's not a best time, but I don't want anybody to think we've already crossed over into the new year now of 2019, so now it's too late. That's just not the case, right?
No, absolutely not. There is no right time to plan. The right time to plan is now, whether it's December, July, September, it really, really doesn't matter. And I think that it's easy to use that as an excuse that, oh, the beginning of the year has passed. I'm already behind the eight ball. I'm just going to now procrastinate it until next year. But the truth is, planning is something that's ongoing all the time. I think that with the December, January, the new year coming in, I think we're just naturally are inclined to reflect on the year, look at what we want to do next year. I just think that's a natural tendency. It's a beautiful thing. Go with it. But really, when it comes to planning to really do it right, you're going to be doing it year round all the time. There's just no like, oh, I don't have to do this for the next 6 months. I'm just going to cruise. It's something that you're always, always, always doing if you're really doing it effectively.
Yeah, it's not like in 11 months, I'll consider this again.
Right, exactly. It's like, nope, I'm really going to be, of course, planning out like what you kind of want the year to look like, but every month, every week, and even sometimes every day, you're going to be taking, even if it's just a few minutes to assess where you are, to really, really be super effective with your goals and with your time.
Is there a difference between, and I don't know, maybe it's nomenclature, or maybe there is really some significant difference behind it. But I have an aversion to setting New Year's resolutions, but I am a massive goal setter and planner. And I don't know that I am alone in that. Is there a difference between planning and setting goals and this whole, opportunity to create a New Year's resolution?
I don't think so. And you know what? I'm not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions either. Honestly, as a goal setting person, as I've gotten better and better at it, I tend to look a lot less at the time frame. Like, I don't care if it's a 90-day goal. I don't care if it's a 30-day goal. Like, I care more about what I want to accomplish, and it's going to take as long as it takes to get it done. Of course, breaking it down into small pieces, but I'm not a huge fan either of the whole New Year's resolutions. And if you look at the stats around it, most people don't make their New Year's resolutions. In fact, 93% of people don't. And so, of course, like, who wants to be part of that? Because if, you have a 93% chance of failure, you've got to be crazy to be like, oh yeah, let's go do that. Right.
Right. And why do you think that is for the New Year's resolutions? I know part of my pushback on it has always been that it was one of those opportunities for me that felt like I was supposed to do it a certain way. Like there was some right way and it needed to be done right now. Instead, our family has always done, we used to either do it on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. We have a great big fondue dinner. We've been doing it since the kids were old enough to sit beside fondue pots. We do it at the house, and we each go around and say what our goals are for the year. So we're not resolving anything as a resolution. Instead, we're saying, hey, do you have any physical goals this year? Like, do you want to go to the gym? Do you want to work out? When the kids were little, they'd be like, I want to take soccer, or I want to try basketball. And that kind of gave our family a roadmap for what sport they might want to try. And then we looked at it, in all the different areas as we could, spiritual goals. We even talked about where we wanted to spend the extra money that came into the house. For example, do we want to get tickets to go to the Braves game? Do we want to go to a football game? Where do we want to go on vacation? And we all just kind of threw out all these ideas. That made it fun, and that was part of the dreaming exercise. But that idea of go sit down and write down your New Year's resolutions, I've just always railed against it because it felt forced. I think that's what it is, Jennifer. It felt forced. I wasn't really committed to it. I think I did it because I kind of wanted to do something, but I really wasn't committed to either the process or the outcome. And then, of course, it never served me. So then I was in the 93%, and I'm like, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, because the 93% isn't fun at all.
No.
But it's interesting when you think about when you hear anybody say, oh, you should do this. it's almost like there's a natural block inside of us. And it's not just us entrepreneurs who like to control everything and do everything our way. I think this is just for really anybody. When you hear you should do this, it's almost like it's a natural block. When you can shift the should into want, it's like from going from being up in your head and I should do this to being in your heart. I want to do this. I want to accomplish this in the new year. I think that's where it starts to open up, and why, sitting around with your family, talking about what you want to do in the new year, like that sounds like so much fun. It sounds like love and joy and just like the old, a wonderful family experience. It doesn't feel like, judgment and you have to do this, you're being forced into it and you're probably going to fail anyway. Right. So I think that's probably the difference there is just, when you feel like you should do something, there's just a natural resistance in all of us. It's like, no, I shouldn't actually, but I should do, what I want to do. And I think that's where it matters. It's getting into the want that's in your heart. What do you want for your life? And it's your business, it's your health, it's your family, it's the whole woman, or man, if you're listening to this, guys, we love you too. It's that whole picture, that whole person, what you really dream about and what you want. I think that's where the motivation and the inspiration comes from.
I agree. It's the connection piece. And I think that when it's in our head, there's not that heart connection. Yeah. And Seal made the comment on the podcast we did. She said, I have to switch it around in my brain to say, I get to do this instead of I have to do it. And if I can't make that switch, then I probably don't need to be doing it, because it becomes a have to, which is very much in our head. So is there a way to become in the 7% that gets their
yeah,
things done if they're resolutions and not the 93? And
yes,
I want to, for once, I want to be in that 7%.
Right. We all do, right? We all want to be in the 7%, and you can absolutely be there. This is one of the things that personally, I'm just like, I want to help so many people achieve their goals, because we all have goals, whether you are trying and succeeding, trying and kind of succeeding, trying and not succeeding, or if you've just given up, you still have goals. You still have things that you want to do in your life. And so, yes, absolutely. There is hope for the rest of us. For wanting to be in the 7%. And it's so funny because they actually have a name. It's for the saddest day of the year. It's called Blue Monday, and it's coming up, people, whether we want it to or not. Blue Monday is statistically the saddest day of the year. It's usually the third Monday of January. And if you think about it, a lot of people, we've already set New Year's resolutions, right? Because we think we should. And if it's diet or exercise, we've already started failing. So we've already blown our diet. We've probably gained weight from the holidays and all that amazing things. Like our family, we are like carbivores. We aren't supposed to be eating all these carbs, but we love the carbs. And so, you kind of get on that roller coaster. So you start picking up some pounds. In January, it's usually colder. So the weather is colder. The sun is not shining. A lot of people find themselves in debt from the holidays. And so by about that third Monday, that is Blue Monday, and it is the saddest day of the year. And there are absolutely ways to scoot right by that. And you may have even noticed that there's companies that take advantage of this. Like how many gyms, get gym memberships signed up. They take advantage of this. And I actually think it makes it worse, because now you've signed up for the gym membership you're not going to use because you don't really want to, but you thought you should. And then it isn't going to happen. And now you just feel, now you've lost more money, and it just starts to become this big mess. And so you get overwhelmed, you get frustrated, you give up, and you go right back to your old habits. And it just is this really bad cyclical pattern. But there are absolutely some things, and I want to share two things that I have seen really, really help people to just sort of sail right through that Blue Monday phase and just keep right on going. The first one is support. You need support. If you're trying to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders all by yourself, and especially if this is a goal that you have tried to succeed at for over a year and you've been failing at it for over a year, you need to get some support. Now, support can come in any number of resources, and it may also require you to check your ego, right? We think that we should have all the answers and we have to do it all ourselves, and it's a bunch of baloney. You need to check your ego. Like checking the ego, I think, is one of the most important things, especially as entrepreneurs, that we need to do is to get the help that we need to admit, we're failing in this area or we're not strong in this area, and partner up with somebody who is. So if you can get the support that you need, and it can come in the form of, a coach, a mentor, a group, a mastermind, like there's all different, these days there's so many resources out there to get the support that you need around you. You need people who, one, know what your goal is and are invested in your success, and who can really support and encourage you when you get like depressed and unmotivated. You need that support system around you. I know in the coaches that I've worked with, like there's nothing better than knowing I've got my call coming up and I've got to move my butt because I've got that call and they're holding me accountable and I've got that support system. And what a joy to get on the call and say, I did it. It feels like so good. So support's going to be the first thing that you need. And the second one is, this sounds counterintuitive, but lower the friggin' bar. I would drop an F-bomb in there just for punctuation's sake, but you've got to lower the bar. You go into these New Year's resolutions or goal setting and you set 45 goals because, okay, yeah, you want to do all of that stuff, but you're not physically able to do 25 things at once and do them all well. You have got to lower that bar. You've got to hand pick the one or two things that are the most important to you. I usually like to have a personal goal and a business goal, and that's it. And it's one thing that I am working on, but I'm putting all my energy, all my effort, I'm putting it into that. And so you're going to be so much better at it if you're not stretched so thin. You've lowered that bar, only focus on a couple of things. It doesn't mean that you can't still achieve at a high level. You can, and you will actually when you're putting all your effort into one or two things. But you've got to lower that bar, because as soon as you start feeling overwhelmed, anxious, fearful, stressful, it changes your mindset. You're not going to get the results you want. You're going to just feel like crap. And you're going to be in that 93%. You just are.
I remember the first time you suggested that I needed to lower the bar. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've said this before, my number one strength is maximizer. Mm-hmm. So I already, like I said in a couple of other podcasts, my goals have babies at night. And so I wake up to a whole new set of goals. My brain never stops. And Seal challenged me to go figure out on the Gretchen Rubin kind of matrix, the 4 tendencies, which one I was. And so I did the test for her, and I am a questioner, which is not a shock. Mm-hmm. Hence probably one of the reasons I have the podcast and coach and ask questions all the time. But because I'm constantly questioning and then maximizing and questioning and maximizing, my bar is way at the top for myself and sometimes for others, but primarily for myself. Mm-hmm. And I remember when you said that, and I thought, oh my goodness, I can't do that, because I thought that it would feel like I wasn't doing my best, which I had always been challenged to do growing up. Do your best, give your best effort. But it actually was extremely freeing. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that you asked me when I kind of pushed back, and we went through a little bit of that tension of you helping me see, I wasn't doing myself any favors by continuing to raise my own bar. If anything, I never actually reached, because it kept moving. Mm-hmm. So even lowering, even just holding the bar still for some of us, even if we don't lower it, just set it and leave it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That was huge for me. And then I remember the question that you asked me. You asked me what it would look like if I took like maybe a half a step or one step back from where the bar was. And I defined it in that particular example. And you asked me, will it change what you're delivering to your client? No. Will anybody notice that difference? No. Can you charge any more for that difference? No. Then you can take a step back. You're not impacting the quality. You're not impacting the work. If anything, it's costing you more resources that you can't recoup. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I don't see it in other people, but it's sometimes hard for us to see it in ourselves. So it really, for me, just even when we had that discussion, gave me just a a deep breath. And so now when I start thinking about what it could be, I now kind of take 2 or 3 steps back and go, what's that minimum viable product? Back to software days. What's the minimum viable product that people want so that you can get it out faster? Now, if I want to build, what might that look like? And I think the same thing is true. Like, I can't turn around and say, I want to go compete in a bodybuilding exercise as part of my working out goals without walking through. I got to lose a few pounds and change a few other things to get there, right? So I got to bring it back down and make it manageable. And the other thing that you really helped me work on is because I'm Maximizer and I've got 45 ideas going, narrow them down. And I am a firm believer that the world over the last, maybe let's say, maybe 10 to 20 years, that whole, I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. It makes us do all that at the same time. And if I'm at work, I'm not in the kitchen with bacon in a pan. So that just doesn't work. And the idea of the multitasking, doing it all, do it all now, have it all right now, that immediacy of everything, I think has really put a damper on our ability to plan in a way that supports us, but gives us periods of rest. You know, why do we have to have 45 podcasts on self-care? Or why do we have to talk about it? Because we're just planning and going and doing. So I love those ideas. Get support, check the ego, and lower the bar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said about how freeing it was for you when you thought, well, if I lower the bar, what happens? Your overwhelm goes down, your stress goes down, your anxiety goes down, and you start to feel freer and you start to feel better. And now you're in a better mindset and you're in a better place to serve your clients, to serve your family, to serve yourself, you know, to do these things. But when you're walking around as just an overwhelmed ball of stress, you are not effective. You are not having a good time and you're not really in a good mindset to attract more of the good things that you want in life. So that's really what lower the bar is about. It's not to say, because it does kind of sound like, oh, lower the bar means give up on your dreams, give up on the level of achievement you want to go out and get in this world. That's not what it means at all. It means, you know, take a little bit of a step back so that you can be in a place to go achieve and not try to do, you know, you can go in a million directions and make a millimeter of progress, or you can go in one direction and be at the top of your field. So that's what it's about. It's about actually achieving at a higher level because you were willing to say no to these other things and take some of that layer of stress off of yourself.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing that I was going to say about that is, I love in the planner, your planner, and I've done this for years, so I love the part where it says, write down all these things that are on your mind, and if you need to take them off the list, scratch them off. If they don't serve you, get rid of them. And I just had Matt Maloof on the podcast, and he has a book called Stop Doing It. And I love that. Just stop doing it. I actually think his episode is going to air after we talk. But be watching for that, the Stop Doing It book.
I love it.
And it's about if it's not serving you and it's not great for you and you need to delegate it and get it off your plate, we don't have to be the ones to do it all.
Yeah, we don't. And in the 2019 version of the planner, I actually added a brain dump page for every month. And on the brain dump page, on the one side, you just put everything on that you're doing. But then on the other side, it's got A, B, C, D, E. And A is, of course, top priority. C is do as you're able, but D is delegate because you can't do everything yourself. And E is eliminate because it's important to remember you just stop doing some of these things. And even I kind of need that reminder. We just seem to have a tendency to take on more than we should be taking on. But when you can start to see it on paper and then ask yourself, well, what am I going to say no to? That can be such a powerful thing. And that's part of lowering that bar. You say no, it's like, no, I'm not going to try and do everything, but I am going to focus on doing these things really, really well.
I also started doing them probably about a year, maybe a year and a half ago now, focusing on one big business goal per quarter, which I think is, or for 2 quarters based on the size of what it is I'm working on. But to your point, one big thing, I'd rather move miles than millimeters.
Yep.
And then trying to do the one big thing on the family side as well. And so one thing I would say for anybody listening in today is some of the techniques and the tips and the tools we talk about can be used in business or in personal. Because I also now go back and think, if there were things I thought in my personal life that needed to be done. And I remember asking my husband one time, this was back when it was probably about this time of year. We had just come through probably the Christmas holidays. I was probably half crazy at the time, got small kids, all their Christmas programs, and I'm sewing like a maniac, trying to get the last minute things in. And I remember just asking him, in our marriage, as me as wife, working, you know what I'm doing, taking care of the kids, what is it that you expect when you get home? Like, what is it that you want? Because in my mind, there had maximizer again, even in my home life, there needed to be a hot meal on the table. This had to be done. That, like, I had this idea of what needed to be done, but I'm working. And I've got all these other things. It's not like I was just sitting home by myself all day, where those things would have maybe been a bit more easy to accomplish.
Yeah.
And even now, I mean, I work long days, and so does my husband. He's gone from 7 to 7. I work almost 7 to 7 for the days that I put in. And that was a great conversation. What do you expect from me as wife? What would be great for you to come home to? And then he turned and said, what do you expect from me as husband? What would be great for you?
Nice.
But what it allowed both of us to do is to realize that we were in some ways putting expectations on ourselves that the other didn't know about and didn't need.
Right.
And we got to take them off of our list so that I knew, like, his whole thing to me was, I want you to be happy when I come home, not stressed out. The kids need to be alive. And other than that, we can find food. We'll scavenge together. But he didn't have these expectations that I had created for myself.
Right.
And so even in a work environment or a home environment, having the discussion with other people around you on different levels of expectation or need or want or desire gives you a chance to know what can come off because I wouldn't have taken some of the things off the list.
Right.
He was like, take laundry off. I'll totally help you with laundry. I mean, angels were singing in the background, Jennifer, right?
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't have thought to take it off because I would have probably in some way thought, well, I need to be doing that. So I just want to throw that out. When I have done more and more and more of what you've suggested in my own life, it's also knowing that that support group that you told us we need to have, we also need to talk to them about that piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that's such a great suggestion. I hope everybody listening takes that one to heart. Have that conversation with your partner, with your significant other, with your children. What are you expecting? Because you're right, we're piling so many things on ourselves. And especially as women, I remember years ago, I used to think that, I'm going to run my company and raise my children and have a perfectly clean house and a hot meal on the table at the end of the day. And I'm like, that just does not work. It just like, you can't work a full day in your business and then come home and then expect to do all these, Susie homemaker things. Like I couldn't do it. It was just like, forget it. I love living in a clean house, but somebody else cleans it for me. Cause I'm just like, no, thank you. Like, I love it, but I'm not doing it. And I just don't have the time for it. And so it's things like that of stepping out of those kind of roles that we've sort of put ourselves in. Stepping out of that again ties right back to checking the ego. If you're going to step out of a role, you're going to have to check the ego, and you're just going to have to say, you know what, I can't do it all. And I don't want to do it all, because if I try to do it all for everybody else, then who gets sacrificed? You. And it's about you as a whole person. You're running your business so that you can have a certain lifestyle. You're not just your business. You're not just doing that. And it's about having, like, I love what your husband said. I just want to come home and see that you're happy. And that's really what what matters, is that we're happy and we're loving it and we're enjoying our day and we're able to serve all those around us and take care of ourselves.
And that was his way of saying to me, lower the bar.
Right. Exactly.
And I just didn't see it quite. I mean, so, I think that is beautiful advice. What do you think are the biggest mistakes we make when we set goals?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I would say there are two big mistakes. And the first one is vision. We don't spend any time on the vision. We just start thinking, oh, I'm going to go do this, and we get busy doing it. It's kind of like going to the grocery store, right? This is a very simple analogy. We can all decide, I'm going to go to the grocery store and get in our car and go. But is it really successful? Not necessarily. the vision is, what do you want that really to look like? Well, I want to go to the store, but I want to buy the right foods, and I want to buy foods that support our health. Maybe I've got kids or husband on a special diet. I want to go at a time when the store, they're not stocking all the shelves, so they're not out of everything. I want to make sure and take my coupons. I want to take my reusable grocery bags, right? It's kind of creating that picture first. And people don't do this. They don't spend time on the visioning piece of what do you really want your life to look like. And I think it's a huge mistake because vision is your direction. It's your direction. And when you don't have vision, you have no direction, and you end up just spinning, spinning, spinning. And you can keep yourself busy all the live long day, this, but busy without direction, you're not going to see results on your goals. And if you're like, gee, I'm so busy, but I'm not seeing the progress I want to make. Well, the first thing that you want to check is your vision. Do you really have a clear vision of what you want your life to look like? Yes, the business, but also the life as a whole thing. I like to think of it as it's your life, and your business fits into that, but it should be part of the whole picture. And you don't just do a vision once and then never revisit it again. I say you do your vision and you spend time on your vision. Even if you have trouble looking forward into the future, there are a lot of tools and resources. Michelle, I know you have them. I have them. We work with our clients. Go find somebody to work with who can help you look into the future and get really clear on what the direction is you want to go. Remember, it's your direction. You can always change it. People think, oh, I've done my vision, now I can't change it, so they're afraid to put something on paper. But that's baloney. Of course you can change it, but you've got to start somewhere. You need to have a direction to head into. So that would be the very first mistake I see, is they're not spending time on a vision. And the second piece is they don't spend time on strategy. They just get busy. It's like I'm going to get my car and go to the grocery store. But strategy is that pre-thinking, pre-planning, that making the list, right, before I go. So now when I go, I'm there. It's super efficient. I get everything I need. I buy the exact right amount. There's no waste. There's no multiple trips required back. I haven't wasted my time. I haven't wasted my money. It's that strategy work that people don't spend time on. And for a lot of years, honestly, I didn't even know what that strategy piece was. I'm like, I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get busy, and off I go. But it's like, but I wasn't getting the kind of results that I get now when I execute. It's only because I've done all that strategy work ahead of time, and it falls out so fast, and it ends up being way better than I ever expected. And it's almost like, oh, that was way too easy because you've done the strategy work. So I would say those are probably the two biggest mistakes, is they don't do vision, and then they don't spend any time on strategy.
So I'll share, and I would agree with you on that. And I'll share one of just the easiest ways that can help somebody if they're stuck in these areas. Because I've been stuck in both, right? Strategy to me is saying I'm going to get in better physical health and going to the gym without a plan. And after I've been on the treadmill 15 minutes, I'm like, well, that was enough. Can we go home now? Yeah.
Right.
When my son goes, I mean, both of them they were serious. So like, today is shoulders today is back day, today is leg day. And then, now they're in the habit enough, they know exactly what that means. But at the beginning, they may have something written down and a picture on their phone that guided them through that day. But I would say I've been stuck in both of these, Jennifer, no vision and no strategy, or changing vision. And so it felt very murky, right? Maybe I had one, but I knew that it was changing. And I've been in multiple places like that. But I'll tell you what kind of opened the door for me to think a little more creatively. And I even did this when I started working with you. You asked me what I wanted, and I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. And it's not that I was trying to be belligerent. I'm not telling you what I want. I didn't know how to give it voice. I didn't even know what was possible. I just couldn't think that way. But what I said to you was, but I can tell you what I don't want. And you said, start there. Yeah. And so that's the gift that I want to give the listeners today. If you don't know what you want and you don't know how to strategize it, start with what you don't want. Because the more we define what we don't want, what we do want bubbles to the top, and you can capture it, and then you can use it to build forward. I still do that even right now. I'm like, I don't know what I want, but I know where I don't want to go.
Exactly.
Let me write that down. And then it almost highlights the opposite.
Exactly.
Or that with a twist, right?
Exactly right. And so another one that I will use with my clients, it sounds negative, but it really isn't. I'll just say to them, okay, what do you complain about every day? And it's
Oh,
like,
good.
oh crap. Let me think about that for a second. And so as you go through your day, literally just carry a sticky note in your pocket. And every time you find yourself complaining about something, write it down, because it's easy. It's easy to complain about the things in our life that we're not happy with. Exactly what you're talking about there. So then as you go through a couple of days and you've jotted down everything that you're complaining about, you have a beautiful list of what you don't want right there. And you can just simply go one by one and flip them, flip them, flip them. Well, if this is what you don't
Yes.
want, then what's the opposite of that? What do you want? And right there, you have the makings of a vision statement just by jotting down what you complain about in a day. You've just in that easy and simply have created your first version of a vision statement.
And that's perfect. I mean, I do that all the time. Even when I know what I think I want
Yeah.
and I vision it out, I then stop and think about the opposite.
Right.
Right. So you
Right.
can come at it from either direction.
Either
But if
direction.
you don't know what to do and where to start, I love it. Start with what you don't want and start
Yep.
with what you complain about.
Yeah.
But I've also found over years, the things that I said I absolutely didn't want sometimes were a mindset issue or a barrier to what I wanted. And
Yeah.
I had to work through it. But it'll show up. The work
It will.
shows up. If you do the work, it
Mhm.
shows up. Wouldn't you
It
agree?
does. Oh, absolutely. And when you're ready to do the work, you're ready for it to show up.
That's
So
right.
it all starts to kind of flow in together. And this is where the whole like setting goals starts to become fun.
Okay, so let's say that we're working and we've cast a vision
Yep.
that we're comfortable with for now, that we, sometimes I cast the vision, flesh it out, and then I go back and adjust the vision to make sure everything fits together. But
Yep.
let's say we've got a vision that we want to move forward and we have some version of strategy, which is kind of the goal setting
Mhm.
piece. What is our next step? What do we do? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next step is some kind of a daily planning tool for execution. And I think that this is so important. And, and in a world filled with, there are a million planner choices out there. There's 500,000 electronic planning choices out there. So it's not like we're not bombarded with so many different choices, but you've got to have a tool, a daily tool for tracking, keeping your focus, for saying no to the things that aren't important. You really and truly have to have a daily tool. And there are 3 things I'd love to share about, when you're choosing a daily tool, whatever it is for you. And these are things that I found when I was actually designing my planner, that I needed in my own life, grow as a, mother of 3, growing a business. Like these are the things that I needed that I found were missing out there in a lot of the planners. And so I put it into mine. And the 3 things were, the first thing was I noticed that a lot of the planners, they don't have space for your vision. And we just talked about vision is the direction. So you go write a vision statement and then it gets stuck in a drawer and you never see it. You create a beautiful vision board that's, sitting behind your file cabinet with an inch of dust on it because it fell off the wall 6 months ago and you haven't like taped it back up again, right? It's not in front of you. And so whatever planning, daily planning tool that you're using, make sure that your vision is right there at your fingertips. In my planner, it's the first couple of pages. There's blank pages there. You can write a statement, you can make a vision board, you can do whatever you want, but it's literally attached to the planner. So when I sit down to plan, I can literally flip to the vision, check it, and remember that's direction. So boom, I'm like, okay, you don't get in your car and drive across the country without figuring out what direction you want to go in. It's no different here. So check in with my direction. Does it really feel good? So that's number 1. And check in with it every day.
So I would agree with that because I think that if we go through any of these planning exercises, and like you said earlier, it's like creating the goal and going, I don't have to look at that for 11 months. That is not a recipe for success. I've also found that the more I have my vision, either as a vision board right there in the planner together, all of it up, the more I see it, the more I'm committed to it. And the more I've done quite a few speeches and topics and seminars calling it connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
The more I can connect the dots to this is why I work. Again, working the business into our lives, looking at it as the business is here to serve me, not to drain me. And that overall personal vision is a good reminder of who are the people that are important? How is the money going to be spent? What is it? The money is just representative of all that we've put into the business and as it comes back, because it flows right through to other places, right?
Yeah, it does.
So having it is, I think, crucial. I mean, I would rather miss a goal and be close to it because I had that vision in front of me. But I forget if I don't look at it. What did I say I was doing this for? I mean, it's easy to remember, food, mortgage, kids, but those almost become so given.
Yes.
That they lose the importance. And so we almost are willing to give up. But when we see it in some form or shape in front of us all the time, there's this connection that runs through the whole year that's indescribable.
It is. And the beauty is when it's right in front of you and you're looking at it, what you focus on expands. So now your focus is going on what you want to expand in your life, and you're not focused as much on areas you might not be doing so well in, right? Plus, as you're looking at that vision every day, it's like, oh, hey, wait, I'm getting that. Hey, wait, I've got that. And you start to get inspired and motivated as you're seeing it because you know you're on the right path. You know you're heading in the right direction. So it's just super important to have that integrated into whatever daily planning tool that you're using.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the second thing?
Okay. Second thing is you need a prioritized to-do list. It sounds simple, and it is, but it is so powerful. And I remember the days when, and anybody who likes to make lists, we all know this, right? We love to make lists. We'll put things on the list just so we can cross them off, right? Yep. I see Michelle's raising her hand, right? And I do it too, because I love crossing things off that list. But as I started to really get better at time management, I started looking at, well, what am I crossing off the list? Well, I'm crossing off a lot of low priority things that don't really move my goals forward, but I'm crossing them off because it felt good to get it done and cross it off a list. And that has to go out the window. You've got to have a to-do list every day that is prioritized. And the system I use, you can use whatever works for you. Use 1, 2, 3. I use ABC. So A is going to be a task that moves my goals forward. It should get me out of my comfort zone. It might be, I'm a little bit fearful. It's one of those things I'm going to just take the jump and I'm going to have faith. That's an A task. B's are going to be important things like client calls and podcast interviews and things that we have to show up for, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do those things no matter what. And C is do as I'm able. And so when I shifted into this really prioritizing the daily to-do list, it was very easy for me to go, wait a second, I haven't done an A task today. And an A task is what moves the needle. It's that phone call that you were afraid to make and you made. It's that pitching somebody on your program or your product or your service that you normally wouldn't have done, going to that networking group. That's the A task. It's like, oh, wait, I need to have an A task every day. Those are my B's. And wait a second, C's can wait until later. And I think in a lot of planners, we just see a big area for a big daily to-do list. And if there's 20 lines, we want to fill up 20 lines and we want to cross off 20 lines. And it's a horrible waste of time and it's killing your goals. It's killing them.
It makes me think of the book, Eat That Frog.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, you do kind of some of the yucky or the most important or even the scariest, do it first and get it over with. And if we could even go a step further and say for us to really eat that frog, it may be those A tasks.
Yeah.
Get them done, check them off, feel good. It's almost like Miracle Morning as well. Here are the things that you want to get done before you start your day. If they are that important to you,
yes,
do them whether you feel like doing them or not because you have made a commitment. And then I don't mean to be throwing out 5,000 books here, but I'll tell you one other that I love, and that is 212. The extra degree. And the premise in the book is that at 211 degrees, water's hot, but at 212, it boils. And when it boils, it makes steam, and steam moves a locomotive. It's that one extra thing that some people and companies have. And I would suggest that those are the companies that are doing the A task. They're doing that extra thing to move the needle, because he goes in and looks at what is the extra thing that it's like a millimeter of, that's not even a way to say it. It is a nanosecond in the Olympics. It's
Yes.
little things, that little extra thing. But his big idea too, and Jennifer, I know that you very much are in support of this, is we have to connect with the outcome, but we have to connect with the process to get the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're just connected to the outcome when it doesn't happen in whatever time frame we think, we just give up, which is kind of the Blue Monday thought process.
Right.
But if we're connected to the outcome and to the strategy or to the process to achieve it, we'll keep working through it, even if we did gain those 3 extra pounds by eating too many carbs or whatever it is. Right?
Exactly. And the key there is the A task, the move the needle, the get it from 211 to 212. It doesn't have to be a 3-hour thing. It can literally be a 5-minute thing every day that you're doing. It's funny. Yesterday, I was actually interviewed on a podcast by a woman based out of Southern California, and she does a huge women's empowerment group. And I had gone to her website before the interview and I checked her out. She looked really great. And afterwards, we kind of got to talking. And I have a workshop that I'm doing in Southern California. And there was an opportunity there for me to say to her, hey, wait a second, maybe like basically pitch her and say, why don't we collaborate? I'm doing this workshop. I have plenty of room in it. You have all these people in your community who want to do, work around goals and strategy and planning. But, there was that part of me that just for a second was like, oh no, don't push yourself on her. Don't be a pain in the butt. Don't be aggressive. Hold back. Oh no, don't bother her with this. And it was like, but that was my A. It was out of my comfort zone. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to throw this out there. She can always say no, but she didn't say no. You could tell she was like, holy cow, that solved a problem for her. Now we're looking at collaborating. And within just literally 5 minutes of one A task, a door has opened. It may have completely filled my January workshop with one 5-minute phone call. One 5-minute conversation. So an A task can literally be just a 5-minute thing, but it's going to move that needle.
I love that. Okay. So we have it, just to recap, if the planner has no space for a vision, that should give us pause.
Have your vision with your planner. Exactly.
It needs to be with it.
Yes.
We need to have prioritized to-do lists. So having one is not enough. And I'll also say, I'm the task maker. I've already admitted it. Hello, my name is Michelle. I have a problem with to-do list. I admit it. However, I will say the night before or at the end of the business day, a big thing for me is to look at the list for the next day.
Yes.
I'm huge on that.
Yes.
The night before, I review the list for the next day, review my calendar for the next day, so that I go to bed with the next day, the beginnings of the next day planned. I know the task I'm going to start with. Yep. I even take and draw a little arrow to it so that I know, almost like a start here, like a board game. And I know it sounds silly, but even those little things, I don't have to think. I don't have to wait till the second cup of coffee. I can act after the first cup of coffee because I've already drawn the arrow. I did the thinking at another time when I could think about it, instead of having to come in and get back into it. So I love the prioritization because you don't always have to do it in the moment. You may have to readjust it, but you can prioritize the night before for the next day.
Absolutely. And actually, your brain is always thinking. So doing it at night has actually been proven to be a better time because then you go to bed all night and your brain thinks about it. And it's just doing all that work for you. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing that you're doing there. Absolutely.
So what is the third thing that we need to watch out for so that our planner doesn't crush us?
Yes, exactly. Your planner needs to take into account the whole person. The whole person. So many of them that are out there, they're just about one thing. It's just about your scheduled appointments. It's just about this gigantic to-do list that you're never going to get out of. And so really, if you're looking at a daily planning tool, you need to take into account the whole person. I would want to see mindset in there. I want to see health and fitness in there. I want to see gratitude in there. I want to see the things that are important as daily reminders. And this is one of the things I needed in my life because I'm like, I'm not not just my business. My whole life can't be my business. And I'm actually not doing my business or my clients any good if I'm drained all the time and I don't have a life and I'm unhappy, right? Like, I need time with my family. I need to go see my horse. I need to go for a ride. I need to read a book. Like, I need to do some yoga. Like, you need to do those things. But when you're looking at a daily planning tool, if all it's focused on is like just the business, just the work, it's so easy for those things to just get set aside. And so on my main daily planning page, I included health and fitness, gratitude, wins, self-care, like all of these things, because I needed that daily reminder. Wait a second, none of this really matters if I'm not having fun, enjoying my life to the fullest. It doesn't really matter. So that would be the third thing. Make sure that you're taking into account the whole person, your whole life. You're not just getting completely lost in just the business.
I think that is so very important. I just had a retreat for some of my one-to-one interior designers that coach with me one-to-one. And the very first thing that we started our week-long business planning with was gratitude. Let's go back and think about all your successes and who we're thankful for. Then the next thing we did was tell me how you want to feel next year. And I want you to look in all of these areas. So describe what you want your life to look like in 2019, your whole life, all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see. I want you to go calendar all that.
Yeah.
Now let's see where the business fits in.
Nice.
And, you know, when you start to think about it, it almost blows people's minds because it's like, wait, what? Yes. If you need to go get a massage on the third Friday of every month, put it on the calendar. Go ahead and build it in. And there's nothing worse than having to carry 4 journals or 2 planners and a book of quotes around with you.
Right.
Have it all. You know, it's great to have as much as we can in one place.
Exactly.
And be able to manage it that way. And really think about ourselves as whole people. And I think that's really what, even going back to the conversation that I had with my husband all those years ago, was the whole me was struggling to do it all.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, I got to tell you, I mean, I almost, you know how it is when you have one of those really tender things that happen in your life, even to go back makes you feel. And this one makes me feel. And I can remember during that time of struggle, really thinking, when I'm at work, I stink as a mom and wife. And when I'm a mom and wife, I stink as a business owner. Yeah. It's like, I never felt like I was accomplishing, but I never felt it because of that idea of maximizer, or that idea of wanting to do, or too big of goals, or too many things at one time and couldn't do it all. That, even those mindsets and thought processes put me in a position of always feeling less than. Always feeling like I was in the 93%, even if my workload showed I was in the 7. And I think that's an important distinction to make. If you're in the 7 who's actually doing it, but you don't recognize that you're doing it, you can feel like you're in the 93 that
isn't. Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, it ties right back to where we started around support, having these conversations, having people in your life, even the work you and I have done together about getting a different perspective. You know, you pushed back on lowering the bar, but then it's like, wait a second, that actually serves me really well. And you were trying to fill a role with your husband that he wasn't even expecting you to fill. So this is where the support and the people around you are just so important to help you with perspective and feedback, and help you check that ego so that you can lower the bar and actually start to achieve at the level you really want to. And it's such a joy. It's such a joy when you get there and you're doing it. And, you know, you hear you can't have it all. I'm like, baloney, you absolutely can have it all, but it just means you're going to have to say no to a whole bunch of other stuff so you can say yes to the things that are the most important to you. Yes, I want to have a great family and relationships with my children and a personal life. And, you know, I want to have also a successful business. And you can have it all, but you have to say no to some other things.
Right. I think, again, you can have it all, but maybe not all at the exact same moment. It may be staged. Right?
That's right.
It may be staged. I mean, it just has to be staged sometimes. So, okay, when I start my planning, and I want you to share a little bit, let's talk just for a few minutes about some of the some very tactical strategies here.
Yep.
So we've got this vision, We've
Yep.
got, let's see, we've got as we plan the strategy, we're really thinking about kind of how to miss some of the potholes or what we want to do. But I like to go through, and you and I've talked about this before, and I think you do a very similar thing. I love the book, The 12-Week Year, which really talks about, you and I both are Profit First certified professionals.
Yep.
And the one big thing, the one big law that we talk about in Profit First all the time is Parkinson's Law, where you're going to stretch to fit the time, if you will, that you have, or the money or the budget or whatever resource it is. And in goal setting, I think that happens. We say in 2019, I want to do this, but we don't have the strategy, like you said, for an A activity every day to get us there. And so what happens is we cram it all into the very last month, November, December. And that's, another reason why we're exhausted is we're trying to meet the normal demands of business. And then these unreasonable demands of goals that we had 9, 10, 11 months to do and we didn't touch. And now we feel like we have to do it. And so for me, I remember just really having that aha moment of, okay, why don't I found the book. I was already doing it. Kind of like Profit First. I was doing a version of it and found the book. I was doing this and had already, I guess, on my own found out that it was working for me. One thing a quarter that is really big.
Yep.
And focus on that. And then, so for me, I write down all of the things that I think I want to do in 2019. Let's just use that for an example.
Yep.
And then I look at what are the kind of prioritize them. What are the top 4? What needs to be done before the other? And what am I going to do? That was one of the things I had shared with Seal because I had to move something. When I did the podcast, that was a whole quarter. That was planning, execution, marketing. If I had tried to add in some of the other things that were going on at the same time, nothing would have gotten done, or it would have all been mediocre.
Right.
And so then taking the quarterly goals, breaking them down, and what needs to get done in each month.
Yes.
And then each month down to, each week.
Yeah. And
each day. And you do the same type of planning. And you're a planner. I would say a planner has to allow you to do that. It has to allow you to see the string of why doing something on Tuesday, the second week of January, impacts what's going to happen at the end of March. And I think as much as the vision helps us keep up with the overall, being able to tie that vision down into pieces and parts of a whole is super important for strategy. Can you speak to that and kind of your experience with that, and then how your planner also allows it to do that? Because I think, again, whatever planner we use, even if it's an online digital, it's got to allow us to tie all the pieces and parts together going forward and backward to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about like the tactical, we can talk 30,000 foot all day long, but the tactical, okay, now how do I do this? There's basically 5 pieces. There's the vision, its direction, and you're going to be revisiting it throughout the year on whatever frequency works for you. I don't want to tell somebody you have to look at it every month. I'm going to say, you probably should check in with it, but you can check in with it every day, but just make sure you're checking in with it on a frequency that is good, and your course correcting is necessary. As the vision changes, you can change too, but it's always that check of, this is what I still want my life to look like. And if it's not, I change it. If it's right on the point, great, I'm headed in the right direction. Next thing from the vision is where the goals come from. Goals are just benchmarks. It's just how you're going to get there. And so once you've set the goals, so you've got the vision, you set the goals, next thing is prioritize. You can't do them all. So you pick, okay, this is the one personal and one business, whatever that works for you, goal that I'm going to work on. So now I've got those 2 goals. Now I do the strategy, breaking it down, pre-planning, thinking it out. Even if it's something that it's a 30-day goal or 60-day goal, that is so fine. It's totally okay. Do the strategy work around how you're actually going to accomplish it. And then finally is the daily execution. And that's the A task every day, the B's that you have to do anyway, but it's that A task, 1 to 3 10-minute A tasks every day towards those goals that you've already mapped out in your strategy. That's the tactical piece, though, and nothing can be missing. if you don't have the vision, you don't have direction. If you don't break down the goals, you don't have measurable benchmarks to know you're headed in the right direction. If you don't prioritize, you're going to be going in too many directions at once. If you don't do the strategy, you're going to be wasting a lot of time and effort because you didn't do the pre-planning. You're going to have to go back, fix mistakes, redo stuff. And with the execution, same thing. It's just about making sure in the time that you have, you're making it as effective as possible. And you're just moving that needle with the least amount of effort possible so that you can spend the rest of your time having fun.
Right. And not stressed out in November and December, the last 12 weeks, trying to get everything done for the whole year.
Exactly.
So Seal asked me, and I'm going to ask you, how long does it take me to do that? And what all that planning? And what I said to her was, for me, because I do rolling planning. So I already know what my first quarter is for 19. And I've not even done 100% of my 19. I will before this airs, but we're filming right here at the end of December, and I've got another day planned to finish up a few things. But mine is a consistent thing. So probably maybe one full day a quarter. That is like really planning, but I've got business development time that not only am I doing the A task, I'm thinking about the next A task, because things come up all the time that maybe you don't know. It's the I don't know what I don't know kind of task that are still A's that are still necessary. But I would say towards the end of a year, when I'm really thinking about the next year, it could be 2 to 3 full business days, maybe not all at the same time, but over that amount of time, 24 hours maybe of really thinking, planning, strategizing, figuring out what I know, what I don't know, where do I need to get help or assistance, whether it's a course, a person, support, employee, whatever it is. What would you say is kind of the amount of time that you pour into doing some of these things?
Yeah, I would be similar to that. So at the end of each year, I'm probably spending about 2 days. It's usually not 2 full dedicated days, but it's, that amount of time spread out over the course of a couple of weeks. I might be spending an hour or 2 a week over, the last 3, 4, 5 weeks of the year. But because you've already done it, it's not like I have to start from scratch. So once you start doing this, I think it's taken me less time, I've noticed, because the vision is pretty there. I might just tweak it here and there. I might update some specifics, but most of it is there. So yeah, I'm generally spending 1 to 2 days, really getting clear on the vision, kind of mapping out those goals. But then once I hit the year, I probably spend, 10 minutes a week and 5 to 10 minutes a day. Always looking at it, always revising it. And, so each week I'm spending maybe 10 minutes. It's really not that long. As I go through, I look, I revise, I update, I prioritize, and I'm done. And then when I hit the day, I'm kind of done, but it's just a little bit of, okay, let me go pull this from the list and let me do this. So, and then of course, each month I probably spend 10 or 15 minutes and I go back through the previous month, see what I've missed, incorporate that into the next month, make sure I'm on track. So yeah, if you're not willing to invest a few hours in figuring out what your life looks like, then you're going to get what you get. Like, you've got to be willing to say, I'm going to take a few hours and I'm going to dedicate it to this vision planning time. And you've got to carry it through the whole year. So, but it doesn't have to be a huge time frame. I mean, literally, I'm like 10, 15 minutes each month, 10 minutes a week, and 5 to 10 minutes each day. And that's about all I spend. And it's enough once you get into the habit of it.
Yeah, mine is very similar to that. It's one of those, I keep thinking about when my kids were little and we would say, you get what you get and don't complain a bit.
Right.
And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, and this is where we get so stuck in doing the business that we are not raising ourselves up to that entrepreneur piece of the company, that visioning that needs to happen, that all the strategy is done at the management level. Right. Then we can step into technician/employee and just do.
Right.
But we get so busy in the technician doing that we don't take a step up to cast the vision, to take the step down to manager, to strategize, and we're the hamster on the wheel. But I think the thing that gives me such freedom in the pre-planning and the pre-strategy is, it's like going to the grocery store, like you said, with the list, with the bags and with the coupons. Now I can get in and get out. I just go in and do, and I am done. I don't have to stop and think about, now what are we going to eat? What was the menu? And I don't have the menu in front of me. Now I got to go stop and look it up on the phone or call a friend. I mean, that's just, I've been there, and that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
The same thing's true in the business. We talked about it with going to the gym, going with a plan.
Yeah.
But we sometimes don't walk into our business with a plan. We just get up and start doing and hope it all works out. And then we're disgruntled and dismayed when it didn't work out the way that we thought it should.
Right.
And, this whole podcast is Profit is a Choice. And it is just that understanding that every decision we make counts. Yes. And so everything that you've talked about, all the planning that we're doing, it counts in giving us the business and the life that we want. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, one of the best days is when you have this vision board of things that you want to do and you've accomplished them and you realize you have an open space on the vision board that you get to fill with something else. That's what makes you keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
what makes you keep doing it.
Yep, absolutely. And and I'm sure you've experienced this. I know I have, like that strategy, that planning work, it requires you to slow down. You have to slow down. And it's like, and you and me both, we're both very high achievers. And it's like, you want to go, go, go. But to do that strategy, you have to slow down. And if you don't slow down, you're not going to be able to do a good job of it. And you're just going to be at the grocery store 14 times a week. But like, if you just slow down and plan it all out, you could go once a week. Yep. And save the time, save the money. It all flows so much better. But again, we just have to slow down and be willing to make the choice. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to do this pre-planning before I get busy.
Perfect. Jennifer, thank you so much. There are so many things here. I'm sitting here thinking, all right, I need to tweak this and tweak that. But I think that's fair to say that even you've done this for years. You're an expert in this space. You have a planner in this space. You teach productivity around this, and you're still tweaking. We're all still tweaking. And I also want to just say, it's also good to know yourself. Like, I know if you ask me to start doing this kind of planning in the late afternoon or evening, I'm going to struggle. Yeah. I can do this kind of planning early in the morning. So I do it early and get it off my list. Yeah. And so I love how not just your planner, but your education, your coaching, your conversations give us the space to say, know yourself. Yeah. Know what you need and work within that. Nobody's trying to make us create some resolution because we have to. Right. In a way that totally doesn't work for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even when I created my own planner, I didn't want it to be so strict and rigid that I wouldn't want to follow it. And so I like to look at it as, Jennifer, here's gentle structure. That's all it's meant to be, gentle structure. And now I can use it any way that works for me, but I'm not missing any pieces. I'm not missing, the health. I'm not missing the family. I'm not missing these things for my business. And that's really what it's about. Gentle structure.
If it's not filled in, it's because you made the choice not to fill it in. Not because you didn't know you had the opportunity to.
That's right. Got it. That's right. If you looked at my planner, you would see a few days that were completely blank. And it was like, nope, it didn't happen. I was just out of town. Not a thing except a big line that says I'm off the grid. And that's okay. That's okay. You get to decide what you're going to do. But you do have to try to fill in the rest of the days. Not every day blank and expect to get progress.
That's right. That might not support your long-term goals.
No.
So Jennifer, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say hop onto my website, Best Planner Ever, and I've actually created a landing page just for your listeners. So if you go to bestplannerever.com/profit is a choice, we've got some free goodies on there. We've got a special discount for your listeners. You can, of course, hop around the website. There's all kinds of resources and free training and fun things that we do there.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, just for talking to us. I knew when we spoke earlier at the launch of the podcast, one of the first episodes, because you and I work on this so much together and you work on it with so many professionals around the world, that you were the one I wanted to come back and talk about it in detail with again. So thank you for that. And I hope everybody hops over and takes a look at what you have. Again, that's Profit is a Choice as the tag at the end of bestplannerever.com, and Profit is a Choice is all one word. So don't be putting some hyphens in there because you won't find it. No hyphen.
Keep it simple. Just /Profit is a Choice, bestplannerever.com. Perfect. And thank you so much, Michelle, for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be here. I could sit and we could dish about this all day long.
Well, I'm sure that in 2019, we'll find something else to get online.
That's right. That's right.
Have a great year. And thanks again for the tools. And let's all sail through Blue Monday. Let's be in the 7%. I'm going to make myself be in the 7% by planning for it. Sound good?
Sounds great. Perfect.
Great. Have a good day. I'm so thankful to Jennifer for sharing with us today. I plan to be in the 7% that sells through Blue Monday, and I sure hope that you will plan to as well. If you need assistance creating a vision or mission for your company, check out my Solid Foundational Builder course. You can find it on my website, scarletthreadconsulting.com, under courses, the Solid Foundation Builder. In it, we'll dig into your why, your mission, your vision, and your company plan. Now is a perfect time to get this all worked out. And as you plan for the new year, remember, profit doesn't happen by accident.